Yes, hello, folks. Welcome to the weekly Manchester United show. I'm your host, as always, Phil Brown. Joined with my regular co-host, the excellent James Rhodes, on this Monday morning after another very, very impressive 4-2 victory against Brighton. How you doing, mate?
Good, good. I'm starting to forget what it's like to come on these after losing. It's been we had the international break in the middle, so it's been what?
Mhm.
It's been like a month since we've had to do a sad podcast following a difficult Brentford game, and here we are, three in a row. The Brighton curse broken, the Anfield curse broken. Not a bad time, is it?
Good time on the pitch. We'll get to all that in a minute. Unfortunately, we have to start this podcast on a somber note with the Reece Bennett news, of course. He's been given leave by the football club due to an unfortunate incident about his father, that it's been reported that his father um, took his life. Which, Jamesy, it leads me to another subject, another topic that we browse over on this podcast. We know there's a lot of lads and lasses that listen to us, and we know there's a lot of mental health issues out there. People are struggling. It's a really difficult time in life, and it's really important that you have a resource that you talk to people. And a lot of people in pain, mate. It's just such an awful, tragic situation.
Yeah, it definitely is, and unfortunately, of course, it's good that there's support and things, but like you said, we touch on it here at times and this podcast and our discussion because everybody
Mm-hmm.
goes through these kinds of things, and obviously there's a hope that in the communities and things that we've built that it helps to provide that support because sometimes it can feel like it's a world away to have people to talk to. But I think it's always important to note, anybody here, if you're watching, listening, anytime, myself, Phil, you can
Mm-hmm.
always reach out to us. Seriously, anytime for anything. I've spoken to a lot of people in doing this as a part of this who've just want someone to talk to for a minute or have had difficulties, and it happens. It's like people have a rough time, and there's always more people than you think that are willing to listen, willing to talk, and willing to offer that kind of support. And sometimes that's all you need, a little bit to turn things around and improve on your feeling at any point in time, is spend a little bit of time.
I know there's a lot of men like ourselves, James, at this point in our lives. Sometimes you feel unappreciated. Sometimes you feel not respected. Sometimes you feel like you're ignored and taken for granted, and you toggle between light grey, dark grey, and grey, three moods, and you get stuck in this position in your life where you're too young to retire, but you're too old to start over again, and you're not in your physical prime, and nobody prepares you for this part of your life. So many people going through such difficult times. If you're a guy, you're a man. Ladies, I can't speak from your perspective, but if you're a man, you're a father, all this stuff. We're all going to bed with stress, anxiety, doubt, self doubt, fears, all of that. Everyone's doing that. You're not alone. Understand that when you ask somebody how they're doing, you look them in the eye and say, "No, how you doing?" For a lot of people, you start to see the real answer. So
Yep.
please, 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 if you're struggling, reach out, and you're not alone because there's a lot of us in that position. So just really, really tragic. But moving on to on a more positive note, Jamesy. Um, Obviously, our deepest condolences to Reece Bennett's family. But yes, moving on to United v Brighton 4-2 at home. In many ways, I felt like this Brighton result would have either validated or invalidated the Liverpool result. If United had lost at home to Brighton, Anfield meant nothing. For Anfield to mean something, you have to beat Brighton at home, and they did.
Yeah, they did, and it's like you say, because you want to see some consistency, you want to see patterns. You can have, even though it's been 10 years of not beating Liverpool at Anfield, you're always going to have that small bit of thinking, did they just manage to get up for a big game a little
Mm-hmm.
bit more this time? And you need a little luck to win at Anfield. You always do. Everybody does. You need a little luck in big games. We got a little, the game, and that's fine. That's not downplaying the result at all, but there can be those fine margins. And of course, then how you follow that up is even more meaningful. United have been really bad against teams like Brighton, and specifically Brighton, for a long time. And I find Brighton to be a bit of like it's an interesting one, because they're almost like I would call them a little bit of a bellwether club for you, because when you take Brighton and you look at it, they're a really well run club. They're a very consistent club. There's the small team that's been built really, really well with all the things you talk about you need a style of play, you need all of these, everything top to bottom to be in alignment, even though Brighton are very small in that respect. So of course it's, financially, they're never going to be able to compete with the big clubs. They've been run really well consistently top to bottom to establish themselves as like this, very much like every year 8th to 10th, right in there in the Premier League. Good quality, good pressing. They play good football. They're very clever. They know what they're doing. When United have been bad, they lose. They're a team you're going to lose every time, because you're never going to play Brighton at like, you come up against a team like West Ham or Everton. There's a lot of times those clubs are on a dip also, because they're very yo-yo like this, up and down through the Premier League. They have dips because they're ups and downs. So you can get lucky and be bad and play them at a bad time and win. You don't get lucky with Brighton like that. If you're bad, you lose to them. And if you're good, you beat them, because they're not incredible. And so I think it was a really solid indication that a lot of the inconsistencies we've seen, United can beat one of the solid, technical, real Premier League clubs that usually struggle with, and outside of a small blip, which you discuss, do so quite handily as well in one of the more complete games that we've seen in probably years.
I think that one of the things that impressed me is United scored goals in that game mainly as a consequence of the way they were sent out to play. Because you
Yes.
see that they were trapping Brighton in midfield on that
Yes.
second ball coming out from the
Yep.
back, and they were winning that ball in midfield, starting their attacks, were pouncing on them, and a lot of United's their goals and attack play came from them winning the ball
Yeah.
in midfield against Brighton coming out. Lots of positives from the fact that we saw Cunha and Bimo score another couple of goals. Casemiro, it seems a long time since we were talking about his legs are gone.
Right. I
What
mean,
a
to a
deflection.
degree, there's
And
still, I think what's just on that, it's really
mhm,
impressive to take away from the fact that you can kind of see he can't really keep up. Like when he knocks the ball
mhm.
on, he's not moving any faster. He's got one gear, and that's it at this point. But he's so intelligent, it kind of nullifies that. He knows where to be, when, and gets ahead of
Mhm.
it. Which you expect from what, a 5-time Champions League winner. I mean, good lord.
Yeah, well, I mean, United, I thought they were really well organized against Brighton. And you're right, against Brighton, United don't have the same level of intensity that they're going to have against Liverpool. So it becomes a very tactical game and a
Yeah.
well-drilled Brighton team. I think they won 7 of their last 8 at Old Trafford prior
And they've
to
had a
these
good season
games.
too, by the way. They beat City and other clubs
Yeah,
this.
so,
Yeah.
I thought that was an exceptional win for United. And I
Yep.
also think that not enough is being made of the fact, James, that United have won every single game that Lamans has played. And this is a young goalkeeper who's come into Manchester United and had to play some massive games, very difficult games. And maybe he made it done better for Welbeck's free kick, but the difference, James, is palpable. And it's no coincidence to me that United have improved significantly with Lamans and goal.
No, none at all. And we've talked about so many times in the past how much effect the keeper has on the rest of the team, and it's the goals, it's stopping shots, it's doing the things that you weren't getting from someone else, from the other players before. We know that, we've seen that. Lamans is even the way that United have varied the long ball for the short passing to the build up in these last few games, you weren't getting that from the keepers we had before. They were not capable of it. Onana's, not to go in on him, but we talked about it, like we talked about that Grimsby game. Onana's long passes were out. Every single one was an attack the other way. We used to see this where every time it goes back to the keeper, it's a counter attack for the opposition. We're not seeing that anymore, but it also feels, you can see the center backs are starting to have the confidence to be really aggressive, stepping up the pitch into the midfield, that's a consequence as well of the keeper, where they don't feel like they're going to always have to be coming back and covering, where they're not always going to have to be coming back. He was coming off of his line at the right times, at the right occasions, doing it all right. The confidence he's giving in that back line, and we all feel it. So you can imagine the players on the pitch feel it, where you're just like,
it's like a warm blanket every time a cross comes in, or he just this big 6'2", 3" goalkeeper, whatever, just pulling the ball out of the air, taking it down, and just breathing a sigh of relief, going, I'm starting to heal with the PTSD from what we had.
I don't close my eyes on every corner anymore. It's not like here we go again. Like I haven't even thought of it for the last few games.
And I know that Brighton scored from a corner, but it was not because
nothing to do with
it. I mean, I think that's partly because you have a striker marking at the front post. But brilliant to see Cunha get his first goal. I thought he was immense, James, last week at Anfield.
Yes.
When you want to look at one of the biggest differences between United last season and this season in that Anfield game was the fact that we have players like Cunha that aren't afraid to do that are good at the dark arts, aren't afraid to dig in. They give you so much more than just a goal threat. He deserved that goal. Brilliant finish. And I think if you had a scripted, I swear to God, I did say this. I said to my kid before the game, I feel like this is Cunha's day. This is the day he breaks his dog. I had that feeling. But if you were going to script a goal scorer and a result, he would have been on the score sheet.
100%, because he needed it, and not because he hasn't been good and anything like that, because he has. Cunha is a player who, like you said, he makes the team better. He's one of those guys. Like you look at Mason Mount, obviously has scored this season, but you look at him in a similar way when he's been on the pitch. There are two players that they do so much for the team, regardless of whether they're scoring or not. They're much more complete than they're not just an outlet. They're not just, get the ball up to him and I'll hope he can score. They do a lot. They defend, they get stuck in the midfield, they add you numbers, they link up with other players, they support them, they run hard. There's so much that they're contributing tactically and to the team as a whole. But with a player like Cunha, you also need that confidence of seeing a net ripple, and just seeing that goal go in, because, I looked at a stat which is kind of crazy, and it matches the eye test, to be fair. Every goal United have scoring is coming from the right, every single one. Because of course you have on that side Ahmad and Mbumo. They've been flying. That partnership has been really growing, and Mbumo's who scored again too, but it was like 20% of United's attacks come down the right, while 7 come down the left. Sometimes the danger in that too, and why it's so important for the team is, and Brighton started to do this in that game, actually, when I was watching it, they started to shift to their left and our right so that they could close the gaps a little more. But the moment Cunha scores, opens up that side again, and you provide that. You get too one-sided, and it makes it easier for teams to defend. So it's a huge goal for him, for his confidence, for his application, like a just reward. But I think it really also helped open up what, a game that was a little tight at that point in time still, by forcing Brighton to say, yeah, we got to watch out for both sides of the pitch now. And that's the advantage of getting all these wonderful attackers on both sides of the pitch.
I do love Mbumo. However, 5% of me is still haunted by my embarrassing comments. Every time I see him, like, I can't.
I thought about it after a second goal. I was like,
wrong. Every time I watch him, like, this is gonna haunt me forever. You were 100% right. I was 100% wrong. Can't remember being disenthused by a signing in a long time. Gets the first goal at Anfield. He's scoring big goals. His finishing is exceptional. At 2 really, really good goals at the weekend, and you're thinking, what have we here? What this is exciting.
He reminds me of Salah to a large degree, and I think a lot of people said that.
James.
Fair enough, I can see that. But no, like, he does in the way that he's so snappy with the ball. He's so deft and he's so in control. And you look at him and his build and things, and he's so ready to, to burn you with kind of the explosiveness that he has, but so intelligent with his shooting and things too. You can see why he scores a lot of goals and why he's gonna keep scoring them, because he's not it's not bangers only. You know, he's not launching them and just knocking it off the bar. They're so intelligently placed, the goals he's scoring. You know, the second one, he smashes it, but at the right time in the right location, he's
Mhm.
making, and the thing I'm most impressed with is his movement off the ball and his running is incredible. He's like, is, you know, and it's a testament to the system and how it's working as well, but he'll play off the right and run in wide. And very often he's making those runs right through the middle, ahead of Sheshko, and it's confusing the defense, and it's practically impossible to defend the guy. It's absolutely unbelievable. I would say that outside of Erling Haaland right now, I don't think there's a better forward in the Premier League at the moment who's playing.
We're so used to not having these signings, James. We're so used to
Yep.
seeing these somewhere else. We're so used to seeing an Mbumo go to a Man City and put this type of form in.
Yep.
You know, why can't you need to get a player that can perform at that level consistently? I wouldn't, you know, the Ringers United sold. I wouldn't take any of them back in exchange for, I think, for Mbumo. Mbumo is a significant upgrade on what
Mm-hmm.
United have had before. Um, and we were, like I was saying, important goals too, James. Not just,
Yes.
you know, the fifth in a 5-0 route. The goal at Anfield last week, vital goal. Of course, was a goal. You know, Burnley, I think it was. They put United back in front, and then of course the couple he got at the weekend, and that fourth one, James, was really important because United had descended back into some old bad habits, and it was a test again, similar to what they had at Anfield last week. Okay, how are you going to deal with that pressure? You know, are
Mm-hmm.
you going to have a self? Are you going to collapse because you're traumatized by what happened in the past? They had the confidence to see the game out of control, and Bruno Fernandes's dummy for that fourth goal just exceptional. But in many ways, that fourth goal, United got more out of that, I think, than what they would have had a 2-0 comfortable win. Because again, the dividend, the emotional dividend, the confidence you get from trusting yourself. Okay, someone pulls a goal back, we don't have to panic. You know, now we start to trust ourselves that injury time is our friend. I think that is very indicative of the growing morale on the team. And let me just say this, James, I've hammered on Marine here with one obvious, very obvious pretense that I would love to be wrong, love to be. I
Yes.
don't care who's right, I care what's right.
Yep.
And it's based on evidence, and I want to believe. So trust me, I would gladly be wrong about everything.
Yeah. And I completely agree with you on that fourth goal, because I was thinking about it during the game and saying as well that it did remind me a lot of the importance of the second goal at Liverpool. Obviously, that was
Mhm.
the winning goal in that instance where United were already winning, but I thought it was just as important in that respect that, all right, you make a few subs, you know, and the players that come on are not contributing or doing at the same level of focus and energy
Mhm.
as the players that you had before, and you see this fall off and you think, "Ah, is it
Mhm.
happening again? You know, is this because there's still a little shakiness in this mental fortitude and this focus that we're seeing in this turnaround, but to go out and then get another ends it on a big
Mhm.
screaming, you know, if they didn't score that fourth goal, even if they win 3-2, there's, you know, how what's going to be, it's going to be like, I
Mhm.
think about Chelsea, right? Went up two
That'd be-
zero, then the game evened out, defended, conceded late. It was getting really dicey towards the end. Next week, they get trashed by Brentford. And remember the end of the Chelsea game, everybody was like, it was a good win, but like, ooh, I
Yeah,
was not feeling good by the end. You know what I
totally
mean?
changes the perspective of the result because what it
Yeah.
becomes is you threw it away and you just scraped
Yeah.
over the line again. You should have won, but the fourth
Yeah.
completely changes that
Yes,
whole
you feel
narrative.
confident and strong, and you feel like nobody's talking about how we just barely beat Brighton. We're talking about how we smashed them. We did deservedly win because we didn't almost throw it away. We end up getting that fourth goal, which is huge for the confidence. And I do want to give a special mention there in that to young Aiden Heaven, because he has not played a lot this year.
Mhm.
And of the subs, I think he stepped in and did the best of any of the substitutes who came on the pitch in that game, because there were some shaky performances from the
Mhm.
substitutes coming on. He
Sorry.
came in, yeah, yes. He came on, did really well. You know, defended well, worked well, and did it. I mean, that the pass itself as well over to Mpumo, spotting the run and sending it through there, past Bruno as well, just tops and what you really want from a young player to take their chance when they get it, to come on the pitch.
With Dorgu's a young player. They're going to have bad games. I'm not saying that means that he's top player or anything, but when they have bad games, you want it to happen where it's not costly.
Yeah,
if you need to throw
doesn't
that game
destroy
away,
them.
if you need to throw that game away, Dorgu is getting absolutely destroyed.
Mm.
He made a couple of mistakes. Okay, that happens. It's interesting that he's been dropped for the last couple of games. He's been left out. He was left out at Anfield, if I remember correctly, wasn't he? He was on the bench.
Yeah, he was left out at Anfield and Sunderland. And in fact, I know this is kind of a crazy thing because I watched Diogo Dalot play each game, and I'm like,
man,
I don't want to go in on him because we're winning.
But
we've won 4 games in a row with Dalot on the left. It's kind of whatever the reason is, tactically or otherwise, I think he's preferring to have the lefty on the right and the right footer on the left. Maybe it's because they support the midfield better. They come in a little more narrow, do certain things a bit better. I mean, individually, when I watch Dalot, I'm confused, but something is something is working, because we've won 4 in a row. We've won 4 games in a row. So with him in that position, so I'm going. It's one of those things where it's like, as long as you're winning and it's working, you can't question it too much, and but it's still every game I'm like, the one player I'm talking about going, it's going to be Dalot more than anybody else.
When you're playing Pro Evolution in the 90s, and the players that you're not controlling are just running around the park. Sometimes that's what it reminds me of. I that's something that United, I think, will have to look at. Obviously, Mazraoui's been out, and then there becomes the matter of losing them for the African Cup of Nations, which we'll get to in a minute.
Ahmad too, yeah.
I want to ask you though about Ahmad's penalty, because to me, James, I can't understand how anyone can look at that and not give a penalty. What exactly do you see? It's such an obvious penalty that what happened here in this particular incident that you said it makes it not a penalty? I'm confused. What else could have happened?
I don't know. And that's another positive for United, is that we've seen where we've started bright and then things like that don't go our way because the officiating is diabolical and they don't recover from it. And one of the coolest things we saw is that right before that Cunha goal, I think Anthony fucking Taylor lets Brighton get away with about 4 fouls in a row on Mbumo in about 30 seconds before we score. And the crowd is up and the team is up. And you know what? Instead of letting it drop them, it seemed like they got energized by it, went even harder, and then they go on and score that goal. And that was a huge moment for me where I was like, holy shit, we might be building something here. This is because the officiating was so bad.
Mm-hmm.
So you look at Euro getting called a foul moments earlier than that for a nudge on the back, literally a nudge at best. And then you look at Ahmad, like you said, on this penalty, straight kicked through the shins, leg out, nothing, nowhere near the ball. It's a penalty. It's not even a question. It's a penalty. You can't even make an argument, because even if one wanted to argue that he touched the ball, that's still a penalty. It's still a penalty because it's like how many times we've seen our players get called a foul for going through the ball. Last week, who got a yellow? I think it was against Liverpool. Someone gets a yellow for making a really clean tackle that it was Ahmad actually, who got the yellow against Liverpool for making a fully clean tackle that instantly touches the shin of the opposition right after he clears the ball away. Not nicks it, but smashes the ball away, and it touches the ankle of the opposition. He gets a yellow for it. Šeško gets a yellow for fighting for a ball and having his arm down here. But Ahmad can get kicked through the shins. It's crazy.
I don't understand why Anthony Taylor doesn't just look at that and say, oh, it's Man United. They don't do these things, and just blow. Bizarre to me why they don't think referees. Surely they love us as much as we love ourselves.
Yeah.
but yes, you're right in saying that it wasn't consequential in the end, where it has been before.
Yep.
But another encouraging stat, James. They've scored four, couple of goals at Anfield, couple of goals at Sunderland. You know, they scored obviously Chelsea as well. I think that you can genuinely see that there's something particularly nascent here. And when I look at Sunderland were used as an example to pejoratively in the worst way to malign Amorim. Now I criticized Amorim, but I thought that was a really disrespectful attempt to criticize Amorim and delegitimize Sunderland. No one's laughing at
Yeah.
Sunderland anymore, by the way.
Yeah.
Right? Where's
They
all
go
the
beat Chelsea at home. Like,
yeah? Where's all the Sunderland jokes now?
yeah.
Right? And that comparison looks silly. I really hope that we're going to get all of these comparisons we on a slot. I really hope that they on a slot has to do 16 interviews with Jimmy Carragher and Gary Neville on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and do a few interviews with deceased reporters through a Ouija board and stuff. I really hope the on a slot's going to get subjected to all of that, because I remember Eric Ten Hag getting subjected to that after two games.
Yep.
So let me ask you this: Florian Wirtz or Brandon Boomo?
For what? What's the question here? Who has more hair is about the only answer I can give you for Florian Wirtz. So.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but it's okay. They need time to sell in translation.
Yeah.
Very, very
Aiden Heaven has more assists than him and goals, by the way.
Yeah,
I think that's a wonderful stat to see.
I mean, I'm sorry, I know this isn't a Liverpool podcast, but I'm taking great delight in watching Liverpool lose, because the added entertainment value is watching Arne Slot come up with something utterly insane. He's just one press conference away from saying, I don't understand how these teams actually show up here with 11 players to have the audacity to compete and try to win. They should know that we're just Liverpool. And, I mean, he's there. Right? I mean, complaining how he dropped Salah at the weekend. Did he not?
He dropped him actually for the Champions League, funnily enough, which they did win. But
so I'm surprised that Keith Andrews didn't come out and say, I noticed that Arna's changed his team for Brentford. He did that a lot against Brentford. I mean, that's an open goal I would have taken that and buried it. Laced it with a big toe hooker. That open goal would have taken it. We should have said that.
100%.
But so City also lost at the weekend.
Yep.
Delighted.
Chelsea
and
lost at the weekend.
Yes. United's. We're sitting here, James, a month ago. Amorim, whether he loses against Sunderland, could lose his job. Right, here we are a month later. No one. I was afraid of every fixture a month ago, James. No one predicted this. And now we're completely reevaluating his time at United and this season. I felt, and I said this, if United could get a win at Anfield, that would be the equivalent of establishing a pulse. And you start to feel that things are changing. I know we've been here before in different ways, but this does feel like there's something particularly different about it.
Yeah, well, it does. And I think that there's a few reasons why that is the case as well. Is what I think we're seeing is a linear progression start to show, once you start to see this, which is what you want, is something sustainable. United have in the past looked like they were doing things that are not sustainable. In fact, I would say for the most part, we've seen a lot of instances where United have been overperforming, squeaking out results maybe they didn't deserve, that were keeping them afloat, keeping them above where they really should be, where we've almost seen the opposite, where they've been better than the results have dictated, and now the results are catching up and it's looking really good. And I think that one of the really encouraging factors are twofold, which is one, that we're seeing improvement by continuing in the methods that we wanted to implement, right? From the coach and from the club. They struggled with it at first, and it's starting to work, because that is really important. It's a really good thing, I guess, that did work, because there's no guarantee it would, but it is important that that's working, because that's how you build consistency, right? In a club where we've been so long yo-yoing between managers and ideas and styles, and we've never seen it where, they come in they don't have what they need, and then they have to change everything that they came here to do, and we're right back where we started. Even if they start getting better results for a little while, then inevitably it falls down. We're seeing success. We've kind of all wondered, what if they just like rode it out? You know what I mean? That really rough
Mhm.
patch. What if they just rode it out and just kept going with that idea instead of changing too much and, adapting too much and losing the idea of why they were there in the first place? And I think what we're seeing now is we've kind of maybe made it through the other side of that without losing
Yeah.
sight of the identity that was wanted. And that goes twofold for the transfers, because that's the part that makes it really encouraging. It's hard to build a team where your transfers are going to be successful when you're changing identity. Even Liverpool this year, why is it so difficult? Well, to a large degree, because they're now trying to change out of the Jurgen Klopp team into the slot team, and it's a mess, honestly. Like they're caught in these two different ways, and
Mhm.
we've got these players and they all look made for the way we want to play.
Mhm.
And that's why they're succeeding. Cunha, Mbumo, Sheshko. You're not looking at them going, I don't see how they fit into this. I don't see how they fit the way they're like tailor-made for these
Mhm.
roles that they're being played in. It makes it so much easier to get good transfers and to build the team, because the quality of the players is always going to be the number one factor, right? And how good a team is. We need more. And that feels like I know exactly what we need and exactly
Yeah.
how you would put them in the team, because there's a thread there. And I think that gives a lot of optimism for the future. And I think it's why, like, you can look at a long-term view and go, I'm confident whoever they bring in January, summer, what have you, to keep building this team now, it's going to be with the right idea. It's going to be in line with exactly what we
Yes.
need. And they're going to fit in and have a really high chance of working out, which I've never felt that way before.
Yeah, I think that what I've seen over the last few weeks is something substantive, something that has granularity, something
Yep.
that what we're seeing on the pitch is an emergent, payoff property of the actual system,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
that we're not dependent upon exploiting a few circumstances on the weekends where we're a counter-attacking team. We need to get the first goal. We need to make sure this goes right and that goes right, and we need to make sure that someone produces a piece of magic to win us the game. Now I feel like we are seeing a system that allows United to control games, control possessions. The system, as a result of the system, we're creating opportunities, we're winning games, but most importantly, flattening the curve between between good and bad form. You can have blips. That blip is not going to be 20 games, because
Yeah.
the foundations that you've built are not going
Yeah.
to allow that. And
Yep.
that's really important. You flatten that performance curve. So what one loss, two losses, okay, it stops there.
Yeah.
So I think that was, one of the Amarim's most challenging tasks, is to have a United team you trust,
Yeah.
right? And so what United you're going to get more or less within about a 10-degree differential, right? So
Yeah.
they may be this, they may be that, but they'll never be this.
Yeah.
And I think that United haven't had that in the past. I mean, when you look at Ten Hag in his first season, that was still a United team that conceded 6 at City and 7 at Anfield, but yet
Yep.
we're finishing in the Champions League. That can't happen. There can't
Yeah.
be a United team that can go and lose 7 at Anfield.
Yeah. Well,
And
we always felt like that. We talked about how we were always like, we could get absolutely battered. That's not happening anymore. That is not happening anymore.
yeah, I mean, and Amarim's gone to Anfield twice. James, prior to Anfield, or prior to Amarim's 2 visits there, Anfield was a total nightmare. I hated it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
It was, taking an unlubed dildo, if you don't mind me asking. Sorry, every
You got
single
a lot of
day.
experience with that,
Yeah. Oh, come on, James. I was highly recommended by you, mate. Ed. Oh, come on now. What else is it? We'll be doing that for a couple of years, for fuck's sake. It's been like
Yeah.
that for years, mate.
Yeah.
Certainly felt that way. But nonetheless, I felt he did its 2 best performances in recent times. It came under Amorim at Anfield. He also went to City and won. And I know they lost, obviously, earlier in the season, but I still feel like that result in that City game wasn't reflective of the actual game. United missed good chances in that game, actually had more possession.
Yep.
and it wasn't the nightmare defeats we've had before. So start to feel like there's an identity taking shape under Emery.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you look through really every game this season in the Premier League, the losses have been close, really close, really. When you look at the performance levels, in some cases, United were the better side in the losses, and some, at least the levels were
Mhm.
close. And then the wins have been growing in stature, in terms of the gap between them, where it was really tight against Burnley, last second penalty, to a better win against Chelsea, to a better win against Sunderland, to a really strong win at Anfield, and then an even better win at Brighton. So it's like you said, it's the flattening, and it's like you're raising the floor of where things are
Mhm.
going. So there's still peaks and valleys above it, but it's never going below a certain point, and
Mhm.
that's getting higher and higher and higher. And it's the most um the patterns and the style we're seeing, I think, is the most recognizable I've seen in probably 10 years, to be honest, at this point. And the results are starting to catch up with that, which is really a positive.
Especially James, when we were saying a month ago that there Emery needed variation within the system to not be predictable. And
Yes.
he's found that variation within the system to not be
Yep.
predictable. You look at the goals United are scoring, they're very, very different. Broad
Yep.
variety. They're getting goals from different players. The front three between Cunha and Mbeumo and Sesko starts to feel like something is being created there. That
Yep.
Sesko, if you didn't have Cunha and Mbeumo behind him, would be probably being criticised right now for
Yep.
not scoring as many goals as he should. But the fact that United spread those goals out and they're now winning games, the focus is taken off him, and that's exactly what you need. When Sesko doesn't score, I feel like he is someone that is pivotal to how United play, and he's someone that there's always a goal threat with, and I've been quite happy with him.
Yeah, me too. Me too as well. And I had some concerns that we talked about when we were looking at in summer. The price, the age, and things like that. One of the things I think that, again, Amram does deserve quite a bit of credit for is, you get a ton of clamor. You buy a player for that much money, they got to start right away. They got to get in the team right away, play and go. And it seems like the way that he eased him into the team has resulted in him, when he's starting, being very good, very settled, very calm, very composed as a part of the team. I'm very happy with him. I think that he'll just keep improving from here, and that's the important part. Is everybody's improving. We didn't really have like guys come in and light it up right on day one, and then now they're already fading as they come into the United
Mhm.
stratosphere. It's sort of the opposite.
Yeah,
They're
they're
all
improving.
growing, they're all getting
Mhm.
better. Every new signing, Cunha and Mbumo and Chesko, they're all getting better and better and better as the weeks go on. That's a positive sign. it's,
I
it's rarely been that way.
I also feel, James, that there's more of a camaraderie. That there's more. You need to have 11 players on the pitch that want to fight for them. That
Yeah.
aren't, that aren't devolving responsibility, or you see there's a fight in Cunha. I think in a weird sense, Cunha makes Casemiro a bit of a better player
Yeah.
because they're so motivated for each other. You see how they celebrate goals. You
Yep.
see how they react to the Liverpool result. You see the way they dig in. I think that this feels like a United team that has a set of balls.
Yes.
Um, a couple of things about the weekend. So the collapse, right? Obviously, that raises some concerns. United shouldn't be conceding 2 goals. I felt that Brighton got a bit lucky with where Anthony Taylor allowed that free kick to take place. We're well back. It should have been a few yards back. Nonetheless, maybe Lamans could have done a bit better, but okay, it's hit with a lot of pace. And then, of course, they can see the second one off a corner.
Yep.
Xerxes a forward. These things happen. But I does any of that concern you?
Not particularly. I think that there's a couple of things with this, which is that, those were not, to me, a result of like a systemic flaw in what was going on, right? I mean, the first one just comes from a bad pass off of United's own corner, to a bad turnover. And then, like you said, the second one is just something where, United had 5-on-1 on that side and just ended up being a bit asleep on the correct marking there. I think one of the reasons this is happening to a degree, which is one tricky part of the season is the game a week thing is helping us, but at the same
Mhm.
time, there's players who are not getting any rhythm because it's hard. One game a week, so far apart between games, it's hard for guys like Xerxes, Mainu, Dorgu when you're not starting to come in and be good. It's hard when it's just hard to find that rhythm. Um, I think in the festive period following November, the next break,
Mhm.
I think that'll solve itself to a degree because you'll end up having these like Monday, Thursday, 3, 4 days in between, a little more often. We'll probably rotate just a little bit more. AFCON will come in. Some players will get some
Mhm.
minutes. And I think instead of like, you've got an 11 right now that are really after it. You need 15 maybe that are really
Mhm.
after it, 16 maybe that are really after it. And, you've got maybe Mount and McGuire who are these guys who, for whatever reason, they step on the pitch. Doesn't matter if they haven't been playing. You know what you're getting from them. Some of the other younger players,
Mhm.
especially less experienced, Dorgu, Mainu, Xerxes, they're not very experienced players. They're struggling when they come on to get going, and that's just, I think, a consequence of the lack of games that we have, unfortunately, and more than anything.
Yeah, it is, but I think that's also helping with our injury record, where
Yes,
you're
it
having
is.
a lot of players that are more consistently available with the smaller squad, and it also still leaves room for young emerging players from the youth team to get into the squad and to there's a couple of players knocking on the door that I think United
Yep.
really need to look at before going to the market.
Yes.
African Cup of Nations will be obviously will hit United hard. They're going to lose some key players in that. That's something. It is an opportunity for other players, but I'm not thrilled about the thought of losing the likes of Mazarui and Bumo.
Yeah, and Bumo, Ahmad, I'm
Yeah.
worried, of course, about that right side because it's one of the key, dynamics that's working so well is just how much that right side is producing at the moment. The interplay between them, it's near impossible for teams to defend both Ahmad and Mbumo running at them every game. I don't know what the answer will be. Hopefully, it's not for too long that we lose these players. We've seen it in the past, where they haven't missed an enormous amount of time, but I'm hopeful that we'll start to see some kind of solutions or some other things trialed now that maybe things are settling down a little, some other ideas come into play that say, all right, to prepare us for that, some little rotations and things where that happens and we don't see this huge fall off when they're not on the pitch, and that there's
Mhm.
something we can do with that because I think we're gonna need to see be prepared. Hopefully, like the first time it's not the first time we suddenly don't have Mbumo and Ahmad suddenly for a month straight. At that point in time, that we start working some ideas in there that to solve it ahead of time.
Forest up. Oh, one before we move on from ask you about Forest, I wanted to ask you really quickly about Baleba.
Mm.
What did you make of his performance? And are you concerned that this is a player that maybe Brighton made the Evan Ferguson mistake and capped him maybe when they should have sold him? And I'm not sure what to make of Baleba.
Yeah, and I've watched him this season, and the thing is, there's still some things I think he's really good at, but I don't see like the dynamic. When I look at what Casemiro has done, I don't see how he would replace Casemiro. I'd rather play Casemiro right now than Baleba, and it's not even particularly close in that respect. Just in terms of what they're bringing to the table and in quality. When I've watched in the Premier League right now, the only midfielder I really see that I would say, yeah, that's kind of the guy for me that I would really like. There's two, I guess I would say, is Wharton, who's been on United's radar for a long time and has just been incredibly impressive again for Palace. What he can do on and off the ball, that's the type of player that I think scales up really well to a top side. I look at Baleba and I think I'm really concerned essentially that he's just one of these system players that you'll get at a club
Mhm.
like Brighton, where if you start asking him to do a lot more, you're going to see less and less because there's certain dynamics they don't offer. And the other one's Elliot Anderson. I've seen at Forest just
Mhm.
do absolutely everything and stunning sort of things there. So when I compare young players and I look at the level those ones are producing, and I look at how it's gone with Cunha and Mbumo, I want guys who are doing like what
Mm,
Cunha and Mbumo were doing before we signed them, not hope for the future and they come in and they sink.
yeah.
That were I would definitely be turning my eyes in a different direction right now.
I mean, mate, you can get an established Premier League player that does it week in, week out, like Cunha and Brumo. The difference when you sign those players is massive. I
Yeah.
mean, the impact that Brumo made right away, that was
Hmm.
exactly what United needed. I mean, exactly. At Cunha, we didn't have to wait until we have all this adaptation. They hit the ground running. So I agree. Yeah, if you can get a quality established midfielder that's consistent, because to me, that with Baleba, there's still questions, and United can't get
Hmm.
that wrong. And you're talking
Yep.
about 100 million. There's no way that's £100 million player right now,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
it's something that if this continues for the rest of the season, you can't just turn around and say his head's been turned. At some point, you have to
Yes.
show that you have the mental fortitude to remain focused and to not let that affect you in that
Yep.
sense. So this is, and I would agree. I'd rather have Casemiro on the pitch right now than
Mm.
Baleba, but we'll see what happens with that. Forest up this weekend, mate. Um, Not sure what to expect. Obviously, Sean Dyche took over there. They beat Porto and then they lost at the weekend. Um, if I'll tell you what, mate, you need to go there and win, which they're very capable of doing. I tweeted something at the weekend, which was obviously the play on Peter Drury's words when United beat City and said, "Now, Eric, what have we here?" You know, United beat Forest away, James. You look at the rest of the teams in that league, with the exception of Arsenal, no one's been really showing that much consistency.
Nope.
Um, that that's gonna that would be a statement win where you'd have to reappraise your whole perception of the season so far, which I'm sort of doing anyway.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree. I look at that and I go, because you just look at what that would mean for the table with some of the games coming. We've kind of got through the period where we're playing all the top teams week to week. A lot of them are about to run into that. I think Tottenham are about to play like us and Liverpool and City and Chelsea all in a span of a few weeks. City and Bournemouth are going to play each other this weekend. There's a real world here where a win against Forest that I think United will win and can pull off, that United are sitting pretty in second or third place at the end of the weekend. And you're going, well, when you contextualize the whole season and performances, it, it's deserved. It would be an
Yeah,
earned
it's a
position
true.
at
I
that
was
point.
just
It
going to
would
say
be a
it's
true
not a
position.
competition either. I was just going to say
Yeah.
that.
You'd say, because who else has been, there's only 3 teams in the league right now with 4 wins in their last 5. And it's Arsenal, United, and Aston Villa. And, Villa beat City at the weekend. They've been improving recently. They still haven't performed as well as United have this season, and they're a little below them in the table. But there's only 3, and there's only 3 have won their last 3, and it's Arsenal, United, and Aston Villa. So if United end up in that position, they've beaten Sunderland, who are above them in the table. They've beaten City, not beaten City, but beaten Liverpool and these teams that are around them. It's a real position. It's a deserved position. It would be earned. And so, yeah, I mean, I would not be surprised if at the end of this weekend they're there. And as the European games get going, I think the advantage for United in having these extra days is only going to grow with these teams as the league starts to shake out.
I am confident United will go to Forest and win. Maybe I'm getting too carried away with our current run of form, but this is a United team that is exhibiting certain characteristics that are starting to earn my trust a bit. We've all
Yep.
been burned before, James. We've had United go on decent runs before, but like we've said before, this feels that it's a much more reflective of where United are at. That these are games that are being won not just because United have better players on the pitch, but because of how they're being told to play. I don't think I'm really
Yes.
got enough credit for the
Yeah.
way United played against Brighton at the weekend and how he obviously exploited Ursula, in my opinion. But
Yep.
yeah, I mean, I'm confident United can go to Forest and win. Maranakis has made a total mess at football club. And
Yes, he is.
James, there's nothing for United to fear.
No, there isn't. It'll be a slightly different game than what we've seen in a lot of instances in recent weeks. Teams that want to have the ball, where Forest, of course, are going to be kind of the opposite. They don't. A little more of a traditional, game where a lot of teams these days aren't really doing this sort of deeper block. A lot of teams press you nowadays. A lot of teams want to play football and they come at you pretty directly. But it's going to be an interesting one, and I think it's one where it's a slightly different test. In can we break
Mhm.
down a team? But I feel more confident than ever because I just look at because of games like this, it often comes down to the players in something like that. More, it's going to be, I think, less tactical and more. It's like, do you have the players where there's 10 men in the box? Can you get through that block somehow? And I think more than ever, we've got guys that I feel pretty confident can pull that off.
Also, we have guys that are scoring goals early, right?
Yes,
That
that
we've
matters big.
never
Yes.
had that before. Gee, how long had it been before when United were starting fast, taking the
Even
first,
Solskjaer was comeback
yeah,
kings. We were always coming back from
goals,
behind. Yeah.
and to take. But we'd see United start games well, first 10, 15 minutes, miss a couple of gilt edge opportunities, concede, and then the game just was taken from United and completely collapsed.
Yep.
Now we've got guys, boom, we're scoring in the first minute at Anfield, right? Now we've got players that are scoring goals early in games that are allowing United to control them, that are not turning them into a counter-attacking team or someone who sits and
Yep.
it's very difficult to break down. So very, very encouraging that that's another aspect of our play that has developed that United are now starting games fast and scoring goals early.
Yes, I absolutely agree. And getting that early advantage, we can tie so many. You remember, Pat, and so many times in the past, we'd say United start bright, don't
Mm-hmm.
score,
Yep.
everything goes the wrong way. Getting those early goals, getting those early chances, and converting them is life changing for the team, and it puts the other opposition. It forces, we need teams to want to come out and play, and we
Mm-hmm.
have even more threat. We have even more weapons than ever when teams actually have to come out and play us to
Yes.
beat them. And I think it's huge,
Yeah,
massive.
great variety in United's attack. The fact that we now have players that don't need 4 or 5 opportunities to take a
Yep.
chance is very, very encouraging. Prediction for Forest away?
2-0. I think United should keep a clean sheet against Forest. They really just haven't been great. I think they'll score at least 2 goals there.
Yeah, I'm getting ballsy, because I think United will score a couple of goals. Scoring a couple of goals away from home, James, like they've been doing, this is definitely really, really encouraging. And one of the worst aspects of United's decline came at a time when Liverpool and City emerged, and it was excruciating watching them. Maybe I'm starting to believe in God once again because United have now started to find their momentum and start winning games, while Liverpool have lost theirs and City are nowhere near the bogeyman they once were.
Yep.
It will be okay. I might be getting a bit carried away here, but if United won the league this season to go to 21 ahead of Liverpool again, the first season they had any type of re-emergence would just be absolutely beautiful.
It would be beautiful, wouldn't it?
But
Yeah, it really would.
yeah, look, very, very encouraging with what we've seen so far. So the last 4 games have been really, really enjoyable. And I think the one at the weekend might have been the most satisfying one for me. The Sunderland one, obviously, was routine. Liverpool one was truly exceptional. That was an emotional high. It was different. But the way United won that game against Brighton, a team they've had so many problems with, and
Mhm.
in my opinion, they wanted it more, and as a result of the instructions they were given and how they
Yeah,
were supposed to play. So,
for sure.
okay, matey, we'll leave it there, my friend. We'll be back again next week. I hope everyone is well, physically, mentally. Thanks for all the downloads, likes, retweets, and just to emphasize our message earlier on mental health. We have to talk about it, folks. Please. We don't. This is a serious, serious problem. Much love to you If you're struggling with something, you're not alone, and I genuinely mean that. Jamesy, all the best, mate. We'll be
Yes,
back next week.
you too.
All right,
Thanks,
brother.
everybody.
See ya. Bye.